Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends, as this video is brought to you by drroto.com.
Good evening, my friends. It is time for DFS First Sip by drroto.com, your daily prescription for fantasy sports. I am Johnny Danger. With me, of course, Mr. Chris Emrick, the League of Legends legend. Did pretty well at Worlds this week, my man.
Yeah. I was feeling pretty down after what was it, like day one? I'd had just nothing but losing slates. Lost 2 of my 3 King of the Rift entries that day. Managed to sneak 1 through, and was overall not feeling wonderful about it. That's why I haven't seen any content. Haven't felt up to it. I had to correct the ship, and boy, did I ever.
Heck yeah.
Tied for first in the 555 Dragon. That was nice, 30-some takedown. And then that last spot for King of the Rift ended up getting into the finals and taking third today for 15 grand. So 0.14 points away from 25 and like 5 or 6 away from 50. But hey, you can't win 2 days in a row. I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I think they stack it up against you, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, man, we had an interesting week in football last week. I don't know. My season-long leagues went really well. My DFS leagues did the same, win 60% of my buy-ins back. That's about it. I feel like we keep getting a lot of really great plays. Just got to get them all in the same lineup. Are we going to fix that this week? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't think it was so much that. For me, it was just being able to leverage any of those low-owned kind of sleeper plays that people weren't on. They didn't hit the same way even when they smashed, just because there was so much chalk that smashed. And the Alexander Madison last minute starting over Dalvin Cook, who was ruled inactive, and then you had him smash. You had Derrick Henry smash with 3 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, 20+ ownership, just absolutely smash, get all of the targets for Green Bay. And you just had a chalk fest. So, you definitely still needed things like, Tom Brady with Antonio Brown and Mike Evans. You still needed things like the pivot from Keenan Allen over to Mike Williams. But, that 3% Nick Chubb at 6,500 just, it didn't move the needle the same way.
Yeah, man, Chubb. We were rooting hard for him, weren't we? We really were.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost everything. The only play that I really kind of targeted, whether it be in my articles or on any of the content that was created, was really the tight ends. And I said it very early in the week that I thought it was just a terrible week for tight ends, and it proved to be true. But Zach Ertz was especially terrible. So it was what it was. But on to week 6, we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, right. Everyone against the Lions. Is that the new game? I guess not new game, right? Same old game.
Yeah, I mean, not so much. I mean, I just, on to Cincinnati is a common tagline. It's one of the first games. It's a 1:00 game. So I guess that's kind of where we can start,
All right, well, let's look over there, shall we? I mean, you know me. I'll play against the Lions any day, any week. It's always my favorite thing. I don't know how I really feel about stacking this game. Obviously, if you look through the running backs here, you can see Joe Mixon still banged up. You got P. Ryan with a positive COVID-19 test. Since he was actually positive, he probably won't make it. Makes Chris Evans an interesting play, maybe. But, I mean, Mixon played, almost 30% of snaps last week. I expect him to play a little more.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to monitor. And that's, the question that I have here. I feel like Mixon's going to be popular, and I don't necessarily think that that's the right play. Even if he's a full go in some of these practices, I have to assume that they're going to limit his carries to some extent like they did last week. And I don't know if they're going to necessarily need to lean on him against Detroit. The biggest play that I'm kind of interested in here is just, Jamar Chase. Has this unsustainable kind of touchdown rate going right now. There should be some regression, but at 6,700 against the secondary of the Lions, it's a real tasty spot because they do seem to have some chemistry, him and Burrow. But also, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, both really inexpensive, good matchup. Again, this is kind of just like the Green Bay Bengals game, I don't want to go all out and stack this game, but I do like one or two pieces. So I think you can do that. You can do it with Swift on the other side of Detroit. Yeah, and I guess we gotta kind of monitor the health situation of TJ Hawkinson, but I suppose he's probably going to start. I think he's just going to have that Q tag on him, like, I don't know, the rest of the season.
Yeah, right. You've got, CJ Uzomah, obviously huge week 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville. More of a fluke, I think. They've got all their wide receivers back. I'm not really interested. Detroit historically hasn't been great against tight ends, but yeah, I think it's the 3 wide receivers for me: Chase, Boyd, Higgins. I'm going to mix those guys in. Probably mix a little bit of Swift in this game. I really have no interest a whole lot in the Lions. They also lost their starting center for the year, so they're just from bad to worse.
Yeah, I mean, Swift is still running, 20 routes last week, 30 the week before, playing 75% of the snaps and getting a lot of the high-value opportunities inside, the 10, the 5, those goal line touches, and has a role in the passing game. So he's kind of the run back to correlate with Chase because while he's a running back, he's utilized as kind of an accessory receiver as well as a running back. So.
Yeah, I can get behind it. Let's move on. Let's go. Let's move over and go to where's the Miami game? Is it not on there?
No, it's a London game.
Freaking London, aren't they? Darn it! I just wanted to talk about Gaskin because we've been saying for a couple of weeks now that it wasn't he their best player last year. Why do they hate him? What's the deal? Well, he kind of blew up, but he's not on the slate, so never mind. I
will say that he blew up, but it wasn't as if his usage was all that different than what it was. I mean, it was the 10 targets as opposed to like 6 the week before, and the fact that 2 of them ended up being touchdowns. He still only ran the ball 5 times. Right. So it's and again, they were playing Tampa, which ends up being that, but I don't know. I just don't expect that to continue. If you have them season long, I might try and just move off of them, sell them high while you can, because you might not get another day like this.
Nope, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Kansas City going to Washington then. 6.5-point favorites are the road team right now. Washington's defense just has not been great. It seems like Kansas City is getting a little banged up. Hill is getting to a point where I don't know if I can pay that price for him. Probably can. But
yeah, what are you talking about? You can't pay a price for a guy that can go for 40 or 50 points on any given week?
What I'm more interested, though, is seeing Travis Kelce dip down to $7,000.
Yeah, that's a nice price, but and I think you pick one or the 2 of them, or you pick them both. Just in this situation, it's I guess the knee injury with Tyreek Hill isn't of any concern, but this secondary for the football team has been absolutely atrocious, the worst I think in the NFL. And obviously we know that this passing attack for the Chiefs is, obviously one of the best for a lot of reasons. So I'm really interested in, stacking up this game the best that I can. The Chiefs defense has not been good, so I have no problem, putting Antonio Gibson or Terry McLaurin.
Ricky Seals-Jones?
Yeah, Ricky Seals-Jones, absolutely. There were several passes that were broken up to him, so they don't show up in the box score. One was in the end zone. And that's just what you're going to get with Heineke. He's not the laser-focused, laser-accurate guy, but he will sling the ball and throw it to him, and he's going to get it out to Ricky Seals-Jones. So I like all those pieces.
8 targets last week, and they only raised his price to $3,000. So
absolutely, man. He played 100% of the snaps. He ran 36 routes. This is a team that's always just going to be behind. It's just, one of the things that we call in the subscriber Discord on the show is, and you'll remember it because we talked about it. I said, look, over on FanDuel, I think you need to find a way to put like Marquez Callaway. You need to find Dante Harris. These guys need to get into your lineup because they're both really good possibilities for long touchdowns. And they both did.
They both did it.
So, I think you play all the guys here.
So is this a I kind of like starting with Heineke. 5,800. It's kind of a no-brainer almost.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Quarterback fantasy points allowed, Kansas City is number one. I mean, they have played like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and a couple other people that really do skew that. And it's something that I preach, so I'm not going to fall into this, is we need context behind those numbers. But Heineke has produced every single week.
Sure, but can you get 24, 25 points out of him for 5,800? That's great.
Yeah, I mean, he had a down late week last week at 12, but I think what he actually opens up is you can build the lineup with Heineke, go ahead and then stack somebody like Terry McLaurin, and then put both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in that lineup with him, and you're getting some massive exposure to the game. So
it's on the screen right now if you want to look at that. Leaves you only 4,300 for the rest of your lineup on average. So you're going to have to kind of get into some bargain running backs probably at that point.
Yeah, I mean, your defense is going to bump that up. You get a cheap flex, cheap wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, there is some value today for the tight end or for the running back position. So,
well, we'll talk about it when we get to a few of those. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to play my one main lineup in our weekly competition. I don't know if this is a build I'll go with, but I definitely will have pieces from this game. Definitely, absolutely. It's hard not to.
Yeah, definitely.
So where do we want to go next? Let's go over to Minnesota, heading to the Carolina Panthers. 46 points. The Vikings just a slim 1-point favorite as the away team. I'll slide over one. Boom and a boom. There we go.
So these were two teams that we looked at earlier in the season as, kind of just shootout spots. I mean, the Vikings just seemingly week after week were involved in them. Carolina looked fantastic. Sam Darnold to DJ Moore was just outstanding. And then the last 2 weeks happened. Not so much for the Panthers. It was just last week. But the Vikings have been involved in two low-scoring games, one against Detroit or relatively low-scoring. Now we come here, 45 total. I like this as a possible game stack. I think we can go back to it. We've seen both of these teams be in these shootouts, and they just haven't. And this is kind of that, buy low type of mentality that we're trying to take every single week and exploiting recency bias and leverage and ownership. And I think guys like Justin Jefferson have shown that even in these low scoring affairs that he can be somebody that puts up a lot of points, even in tough matchups. And I expect a bounce back week from DJ Moore. And at some point, I think, Robbie Anderson probably has to have some type of week at some point. This is vintage Robbie Anderson, though. Like, people forget that this is just what he does. He disappears for weeks on end, and he's going to have an explosion for 2 or 3 weeks. And
well, they're begging us, they're daring us to play him at 4,800.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's gonna explode. Is it this week? I don't know. It could be. It might be, but he is going to explode for 25 to 30 fantasy points. It's gonna happen, and it might even happen 2 to 3 weeks in a row, and then he's just gonna disappear for the rest of the year. So I like this spot as good as any. This is definitely a game I have circled to look into a little bit deeper.
Any sense at all early on Dalvin Cook? He seemed like he was kind of trending positive last week, and then they just pulled him.
I mean, again, it's something we circle and we come back to. It's the same thing with McCaffrey. Like, we don't need to make those decisions right now.
No, definitely not. But obviously, Madison has proven he's just fine if it's his backfield.
Yeah.
So we'll circle back to that. Conklin, any interest in Conklin this week? They've got him back down to the low 3,000s. He has been kind of unproductive.
I have no idea, Danger. It's just really going to depend on what the leverage in different places come from. So that's what we do Wednesdays. I don't tell you if I have interest. I said we'll circle the game, come back to it. We'll talk about it. We'll look in deeper. We don't need to go over every single player.
All right. So Indianapolis is going to host the Texans. The Colts are 9.5-point favorites, but only a 43 game total. Are the Colts more like they were last week, or are they more like the 0-4 team they started like?
Well, we got a free square. T.Y. Hilton against the Texans is just something that you do, and T.Y. Hilton will be back. It's 4,100. I think that like kind of, I don't think we need to overreact to it, but I do have concerns about Michael Pittman, whose price has raised at 5,500. I don't know. I don't know coming off of that big Monday night game where he scored 21 fantasy points. If that's going to affect his target share. But yeah, I mean, I guess the most interesting thing is just on the basis of the fact that you're almost a 10-point favorite here for Indianapolis is probably Jonathan Taylor. I mean, you just play Jonathan Taylor and kind of go with it, right? Maybe the Colts defense. What's the Colts defense cost?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
3,500 is not expensive for a team that gets sacks, forces turnovers. I think they've created a fumble in every single game so far this year. Yeah, I mean, that's probably where I would expect to land.
Cooks has completely disappeared for the last 2 weeks. Maybe a bounce back for him.
Yeah, real buy low spot for him too at 5,800.
I mean, he put up 3 straight 20-point plus weeks and then disappeared. So he's got the capability. He's the only talent on the offense.
Hasn't been getting as many targets, but still has been involved. He just hasn't, look, he wasn't going to get 12 targets a game, catch 10 balls, and go for 200,000 or 200. 2,000 yards on the season. So these dips are to be expected. I like that call, though. I think that he's going to have super low ownership. I mean, he was only 3% last week.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All in there. All in. Maybe not all in, but
yeah.
Totally interested. All right, let's move over to New York Giants versus the Rams. Let's see here. The Rams 10-point road favorites, 48.5. The Giants will get a little piece back. I believe Sterling Shepard is probably going to play.
Yeah, I guess there's concern as like what kind of health does he have, and why would they rush him back? I mean, Kadarius Toney looks like a stud. Raised his price like astronomically, up 1,600 to 56. But look, dude, the guy is getting massive targets, and almost anybody in that offense is getting massive targets out of the slot. But the problem is we don't have Daniel Jones anymore, who for all the things that we say about him and think about him or perceive about him has been pretty good this year. And what's really funny is I was listening to our show from like a year ago. I just skip around to different parts of it. And I don't even know how the conversation came, but basically what I said was this to you. You said something to me and I was responding. And I was like, look, Danger, it's kind of like when you wake up in the middle of the night, right? And you have to go to the bathroom and you're drunk. And, in your own bedroom, it's not a big deal. You can navigate it. You can get there. You can take a piss. It's not a problem. No big deal. But if you're at a hotel, it's treacherous because you don't know the layout. You don't know what's going on. It's not familiar. You could stub your toe. You could fall and a lot of things happen. And Daniel Jones is that familiarity to you. He is where you want to be. And I don't understand the concept. Maybe I should go back and listen to what brought it to that. But that's where I stopped. I just hit that little clip. Literally 30 minutes ago. So I thought I would share that story. I don't know if I'm really interested much in this game. It's a 10-point thing. Again, the Rams are going to the East Coast, but maybe Darrell Henderson, at 6,000, seems like a really, really sexy play.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's pretty much the only thing I'm looking at here. Yeah, I do. I mean, I like to go right back to Woods. I don't think that 6,100 is enough to get me off playing him another time.
Yeah, the thing to monitor is what is Cooper Kupp's ownership going to be? Is Robert Woods' ownership going to kind of creep up there? I mean, I would imagine Woods is higher owned at 6,100 now that we've actually seen him do something, and Kupp will probably take a little bit of a hit. Is it enough of a hit to get up to that 7,900? I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Yeah, I'm monitoring Shepard. It's an interesting play for me, but I like Henderson the most. A little bit of Woods, but I think ownership might be outrageous. Might be outrageous for him. Very well, maybe. Let's keep moving on. Let's go to the Chargers heading to Baltimore. What do you say about that?
I think you can always play the Chargers. What they've proven in these difficult matchups. I mean, look, the Browns have been a pretty good defense for the most part, and the Chargers lit them up. I mean, the Chargers got lit up too, but Mike Williams is a premier wide receiver. If he can stay healthy, like, can you imagine, like, if he stays healthy, there's a very real possibility Mike Williams is not only a wide receiver one, but the wide receiver one.
Yeah. Man, didn't we want that last year? I feel like we played him every single week.
Yeah, you want it every year. You want it every year. This is just the year where it's becoming a reality because instead of Phillip Rivers, you've got Justin Herbert, who is just an absolute stud. I don't know. They've raised his price, and I don't know where the ownership's going to lie in this. This is another one that I can't wait to kind of button down and figure out because you've got Mike Williams, you've got Keenan Allen. They lowered his price, but
64. Yeah.
He's just, they're begging you to play him too. Like, you could play a little Robbie Anderson, you could play a little Keenan Allen, super cheap. And I mean, he's still got 9 targets, caught 6 of those balls for 75 yards. I've always said he doesn't have the same touchdown equity per se that like a Mike Williams does, especially with Mike Williams being Mike Williams. But the guy scores a ton of touchdowns. He just hasn't this year. He's got 1 touchdown against the Chiefs. So I think he's kind of due. And I just wonder how the public is going to react to 2 relatively down games where the opportunity was there. The other guy that I love, and I've been the biggest proponent when all the haters were telling you that you didn't want to do it. Look, it's Marquis Brown, man. The haters will try and tell you Marquis Brown, you don't play him, but you play him, man. You play him.
You were a hater once.
I was, and then he started catching the ball
3 weeks ago.
No, I wasn't. That's not true. That's not true. I think I was the only guy in the Discord that was like, yeah, I mean, Marquis Brown for Allen Robinson, I think it's a pretty fair trade, to be honest with you. I might actually, I think the other guy probably, I think I'd rather take Marquis Brown, to be quite honest.
It hurts my feelings, though, to look at this game log and just see how dominant the guy has been, and then the giant goose egg he laid in Detroit. It hurts me. It hurts me.
I mean, that's the only reason he's still 5,900. He should be probably like 7,000. If he scored those 3 touchdowns against Detroit, he probably would have been, right?
Yeah, he'd have an over 20 point an average week. I mean, it's, whew.
Absolutely.
Whew. I mean, he's at 21.9 now with that 8-point week. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, him at 59 and Keenan Allen at 64. That's a really interesting mini stack.
And then I'm assuming that the pricing came out prior to that Monday night game. So you see Mark Andrews still at 5,200. I mean, he's going to be the chalk at tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily think that that's the wrong thing at 5,200. It's a great price. Yeah, he's not going to get 13 targets, but he might, I guess. I don't know. 5,200 is super attractive.
This could be a very chalky game stack, but we'll have pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have pieces. All right, last early game, we got the Packers heading to Chicago. Yeah, where's that? Here it is. Click, clack. What do you think here, man? I mean, Justin Fields, he's not good.
I mean, he's looked a little bit better, but he's not good from a fantasy perspective. His price right now at 5,100. The problem for me is that he just doesn't run the ball. Like we've talked about this, but he just doesn't possess the rushing upside that people try and make him out to. And so until that time, that 5,100 price tag is still difficult for him to really achieve a massive ceiling. Now, look, if this guy can rip off a 40 or 50 yard run or 40, 50 yard game, then
he doesn't have 50-yard rushing on the season yet.
Yeah. I mean, look, his rushing upside is really, inside the 10. Like, he can run the ball in for a touchdown, but he's not going to tuck the ball down, in between the 20s and go get you 10 yards. So
I don't know that he has a coaching staff that's creative enough to give him those opportunities.
Well, you're not creating those. He's just not doing it even on broken plays. But I mean, this game is just, I don't know. You play Damian Williams. I guess you could take a stab at Khalil Herbert, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and you play all those guys, and then at some point you do have to almost consider Allen Robinson is going to break out of this like 3 to 6 target funk. He's only 5,300, so there are some really inexpensive pieces that maybe you pluck out, because even in the most unproductive games, there's sometimes like fantasy assets within games like Darnell Mooney at 4,300, even the Detroit offense, which you said you want no part of. I mean, like somebody, they're going to get yards, right? Like maybe not this week, but I meant for a season long. They're going to get yards. There's going to be somebody there. They're going to score touchdowns. They're viable fantasy options. Maybe they're not better than what you have on your roster right now or what you can go get. But, in this given week, Allen Robinson or Darnell Mooney, they're going to have an explosion game probably once or twice this season. So,
well, for what it's worth, I think this game's going to go under the 44. So, I don't know. Not a big fan of this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if Jair Alexander's not back. I mean, because he's on the IR, so he's going to be out, I don't know, for the season or for quite a few weeks. So the secondary from Green Bay got torched by Jamar Chase. Granted, I think Burrow is a much better quarterback, especially right now than Fields. But Mooney and Robinson are both things that I think you can not necessarily X out of your player pool just yet.
Fair. All right. Well, we are into your bread and butter, a 3-game 4:00 slate instead of the 4-game.
Oh man, and
you're excited, aren't you?
I really am. I really am, especially because I've got a little extra scratch to pay or play. So man, I don't know, because I'm thinking about like taking a stab at this 700 person $4,444 Millie Maker.
Ooh, baby.
And like here's the problem, like when you play those big lineups, and I know you've been there before, where you can't, like, if you're gonna play like a big tournament like this, you can't go multi-enter someplace else, because if you have 20 lineups in the $3 and one in the 4,000,
right,
you don't care about those. But then if your 4,000 isn't your best lineup and you go back and look at it, you're like, man, if I had just put this one in here. So I could only play one lineup there.
Oh, Chris, I mean, I love to play like the dime and the quarter jukebox, right? But like a few times when I've gone after those, $100 games,
or when I gave you the Wildcat last
year. When I played those, like I didn't play any other lineup that week at all. 0. I just played those, because you're right, man. If I put up like 240 in a quarter game and win $20, I'm gonna be real mad.
Yeah. So I might go ahead and play that, and then just kind of like leverage it by like max entering the afternoon slate to kind of do something there. Maybe max enter like the early slate only. That way I can get my exposure to different plays, and
there you go.
It's a little bit more enjoyable when you do have that spread out exposure when you're watching Red Zone. So
all right, well, let's get into it. We got Arizona heading to Cleveland.
Obviously the game that is the premier target on this slate.
Yeah, right. Hopkins, man, he's got to have one of these big games someday. He's got to have it.
Yeah, I mean, he got into the end zone last week, didn't have a big game, but I think that he's still buy low. I think he's still going to be kind of, contextually still low owned on the afternoon slate, but probably not as much. I mean, when we're looking at this, it's not so much this game, it's the whole slate as a one unit type of thing. I was going to say the whole slate as a whole, and right. I just said it, but
you did it, and then you said it again.
Yeah, I like donut holes though.
Yeah, donut holes are great.
Every Friday I eat a French cruller.
I love it.
Yeah, now you know. You didn't know before. But so this game's probably the one that people are going to target the most in this 3-game slate. So this is one that you can kind of almost X out, and I think you stack the Raiders and the Broncos, the Cowboys and the Patriots, and you'll get real different right there. The Raiders, who knows what we're going to get out of them this week? Who knows what we get from the Broncos week to week? The Patriots don't look very good. I don't know if you know this, but Jacoby Myers has never scored a touchdown.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know that.
I did know
that. And I had him in a lot of lineups, and I just let him just do a shovel pass, do something, get him in the end zone.
Yeah, I really liked him last week. 5 targets, 50 yards, just kind of like meh.
Yeah, Arizona just has this revolving target share with AJ Green, with Christian Kirk, with Rondell Moore. Now we don't have to worry about Max Williams, but you just pick one or two of these guys, pair them with Kyler Murray, and you take it from there. And maybe that's what I do. Kyler was the guy that on my $200,000 lineup, he was the quarterback. He was the lowest owned player on that team. So I do have a couple jerseys that I need to buy and put up on the walls. The first one is a Kyler. The next one is Tom Brady, because he was the lowest owned guy in the 40,000 a couple weeks ago. And then I need a Mad Lions Aloya.
There you go.
So
I like it. Yeah, when I'm looking at this, like, yeah, people are going to love the Arizona offense. People are going to love the Dallas offense. So if you're trying to get a little different here, you got to go elsewhere. Dallas is interesting, man. They scream to me a team that can compete for a Super Bowl. Just the way that they're handling things. I mean, they're actually properly rotating between two running backs. They're protecting their weaknesses. They're spreading the ball around. They're playing good defense, like not great defense, but enough defense where they're getting some turnovers. They're playing really good ball.
And they just, we always thought coming in that they had this embarrassment of riches in terms of skill position players. You have Amari Cooper, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Michael Gallup. But now with the emergence of Schultz and Jarwin, both as viable receiving options, being able to plug in Pollard to keep Zeke fresh, and Zeke still just absolutely crushing. Yeah, I mean, they're another team that's difficult to assess, but my assumption is that, they're going to be a running football team. They're going to be conservative. They're going to get ahead of teams, and they're going to protect that lead. This isn't going to be a situation where they're going to get into shootouts and that they're going to have problems where they're going to need to rely on those wide receivers the way that they did last year because that defense was bad. And this game's no different. So when it comes to that particular game, I still think it's a Zeke game. I think you could play Pollard on this late slate because that's one of the things that you can do to save and be a little bit different. And if he vultures a touchdown or two, completely possible, you're in a good spot. And the reality is that this New England defense has been decent, but they're beatable. And this Cowboys team has been extremely efficient in almost all facets of the game.
How do you feel about Sutton? Just out of curiosity.
I like Sutton a lot. I do. I think you can play him on any given week. He has that boom potential. He's never like a cash game play, especially when you have Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. But on this late slate especially, but even on the main, I think you can play him.
I mean, he's had 2 28-point games this year. So, always important to see that these guys can actually put it up.
Well, and the thing is, you just never think about a guy like Slayton. You don't think about anybody in this offense particularly. So that's why you can go to him. He's kind of, to me, very similar to Michael Gallup.
Yeah, there you go. So generational talent is what you're trying to say?
No, just not quite as good.
No, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, discount Michael Gallup.
Discount, double check. We got Landry maybe coming back for Cleveland. Is that this week or next week? He's probably not back this week, is he?
I'm not sure.
He'll do running. He won't participate. No. All right. So looks like he will not come off the list yet. So never mind about that. Yeah, man. I think. I'm sadly I'm going to be in Disney, so I won't be playing this weekend outside of our one weekly game.
I think the one spot, especially on that late slate, that I would attack is I'd play Javonte Williams quite a bit.
Sure. Yeah, Gordon looks a little beat up, and I think he's going to fade out the rest of the year. I think he's going to just slowly kind of fade away.
God, don't we hope so? Because we've just been saying it since week 1. So at some point, if we just keep saying it and it happens, we can just be like, man, we told you.
Right.
Even if it's like week 15, be like, oh, look, man, we've been telling you all season this is going to happen. I know it's of no consequence to you at this point, but we saw it. We saw it coming.
I just like, you're seeing this Javonte. I mean, I've got it up on the screen now, 3 targets, 4 targets. He's basically catching everything that comes at him. He's getting, 50 yards rushing. He's getting, 20 yards receiving, 3 catches. He just push Gordon out of the way and let this guy ball.
Yeah, he tends to get a little bit more work in the red zone and closer to the goal line. He just needs to cash in on a pair of those. Granted, that's where I do think Melvin Gordon still excels and has always excelled. For some reason, he's just a much, much, much better runner inside the 20, and it doesn't even make sense.
Nah, yeah, we've talked about that more than once. More than once. All right, buddy, I got nothing left on this slate for me. Anything else you want to impart the wisdom for our fans?
No, I mean, hey, look, we'll be in the Discord. You won't be. I will be. I'll be doing the Start Sit show in your absence with Doc. We're going to kind of mix it up a little bit, talk a little bit about DFS, and take it from there, man. I'm running a hot week this week, so hopefully I can continue that. Hopefully the NHL goes well for me today. Hopefully the Showdown does, and I've got $1 million by the time you're back in that chair in like a week or two.
Well, if you got $1 million, I expect, my agent fee. So it can be 3%. 3% is fine. It doesn't have to be the normal 10.
I'll send you some emails.
All right. Sounds good, man. All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. This has been First Sip on drroto.com. Make sure you check out everything they have to offer there. We've got the DFS tools. We've got the seasonal waiver wire stuff. We've got hockey kicking up with Kickman and Mark. They already have picked out some nice hot players for the first couple of days of NHL. So we got it all going on there. So make sure you get over there and, check it out. Definitely come join the Discord. We'd love to see you there. I'm Johnny Danger with Chris Emrick. We'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.